Hey, Garrett. Hey, Claudia. Welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're super excited to have you guys on the show today because you all are in the midst of and almost done with paying off a boatload of debt. So we know our audience can't wait to hear all about your journey. But before we get into that, can you just take a moment and introduce yourselves to everybody and let them know what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're Claudia and Garrett from Two Cup House. That's TWO Cup House. And we're personal finance, what I like to call enthusiasts. So we've been talking about our personal finance journey for almost about 2 years on a blog. But we're also working professionals who live in South Central Pennsylvania. So I'm in marketing and Garrett's in sales, and that's about us in a nutshell. But we have three cats that you'll probably see featured periodically on the blog if you stop by ever to read our stuff. And we're really outdoorsy people, so we like to hike and kayak, and yeah, that's pretty much us.
All right, cool. Now, you guys are in the midst of paying off a bunch of debt. So let our audience know how much debt you started with, what kind of debt it was, and where you're at in the journey.
Well, we had just about every debt. We were normal. Student loans, two car leases, mortgage, credit card debt. We also had bought a camper on credit card. So grand total was $240,000, but that also included a second mortgage for a smaller house that we ended up doing a downsizing through the process to eliminate the debt.
So part of our journey, we started at about 2 years ago with 204,000, but our house didn't sell right away, so we moved out of our first house and into our second house and elected to take a mortgage on for it. Another really questionable decision. But it was a tough decision at the time, but ultimately our house did sell. So
and now you started with this over $200,000 worth of debt. Where are you guys at in the journey right now?
Under $24,000.
Ooh. And so from how long has this been going on that you all been fighting your way out of debt?
I think it's been about 21 months, actually. Yeah, it's been about 21 months. Yeah.
Whoa. That is kind of crazy. That's really crazy. That's really awesome as well. Now, before we start pushing into what you guys did, I'm curious because a lot of the stuff that you named are typical stuff where people see as no big deal. Student loans. Hey, I got to go to college. I got to finance it. Cars. I need that. But something kind of awoke in you guys to make you say that this is not the life that you want to live, although this is a life that many people are living and it's not abnormal to be doing what you're doing. You all decided that, you know what, no, it is abnormal and this isn't it. So what caused that shift in thinking for you all?
Well, I think that for me, where I was at with this is I looked at some of our long-term goals, and they didn't involve paying debt for 20 or 30 years, if you can believe it. Actually, we really we've talked a lot about traveling, more than like the 2 weeks of vacation that we get, from an employer. But I mean, actually traveling for months, kind of living on the road and maybe even in other states or countries. So we had talked for years about traveling, and it never manifested. We never managed to save money, for the goal. And it was just after, I don't know how many years we had been together, I think 7 years, and thinking, okay, what are we doing here? What are we really doing? Like every weekend we're at the home improvement store, spending all of our money on this debt and this house and trying to do what exactly? We didn't have any goals for ourselves other than this kind of vague notion that we wanted to travel. So when you don't have a goal, I guess you don't make any progress, and that's where we were. So we decided that we were going to set some lofty goals so that we actually did make progress, so that we knew one day we will be able to travel when we pay off our debt and save money. And that was it for me. That was the tipping point. It's like, okay, we have a spending problem, obviously, because we're not saving any money.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we also did a lot of self-reflection. And I think people in general try to avoid things that bother them or are stressful. So, the word mortgage, the word student loan, they're all something that comes to you and you have a negative thought towards it. So you tend to avoid it. But for us, we took a step back and we really embraced it and said, this is all the debt that we have. We created this debt because of either bad choices or,
maybe not even just thinking through the decision. Not necessarily it was always the wrong choice. It's just we didn't think about how our spending may or may not align with what we really wanted to be doing.
Mm-hmm. That's a big jump. You all just brought up a great point. You said your initial thoughts were one way, and then you came up with different thoughts. So you start off, a lot of people, like you said, they think negative thoughts in relation to debt and thus avoid thinking about it. Where you all shifted your mindset and you embraced it and said, this is our debt. This is based on our decisions. Let's do something about it. How do you make the leap from negative thinking around your debt to embracing your debt? Help the people out.
I really had a challenge, particularly for me, challenge the idea that I guess maybe that I was beating myself up a little bit about it at first. So in saying, okay, we're not making progress on our goals, and it's because of all these terrible choices that we made, and it's the mortgage to blame. And I think I had a lot of really anger toward it all, I guess, and didn't really think too much about how the choices that we made seemed appropriate at the time, and really just accepting that. So once I realized that, I guess that it all just boiled down to my mindset, how I was kind of approaching the situation, thinking about the debt, not appreciating maybe the situation that could have been even worse. Maybe we caught it in time. And so I think that for me, I had to do personally a lot of self-reflection, a lot of thinking about the self-talk that had contributed in a negative way to the situation. So I know, especially at first for me, it was difficult to avoid beating myself up. And so that made it a little bit hard for me to kick off the debt payoff journey, to focus on the future, and because I was thinking so much about the past mistakes.
Right. I mean, but that's easy to do. That's so easy to do. I remember when we were facing our debt, it was like I had come to the point to where I realized that the way I was handling money was wrong, and Ty was helping me out to understand that. But I came to the realization, but those debts were still there. And so then you beat yourself up like, oh, what was I thinking? Like, I just had no sense. And you're right. When you get stuck in that place, you don't have the ability to make any type of progress. Even though you know better now, you're willing to do better, but you get stuck in a rut, just so down on yourself about the fact that you made choices back then that you wouldn't have made now. So, I mean, that's huge. That's a huge breakaway point that many people have to get to, because again, if you acquire new knowledge and you acquire a new mentality, but you're still beating yourself up about the past, you're still in the same place of stagnation.
You definitely have to embrace it. Having all those thoughts going through your mind of I made poor decisions, and by embracing that and realizing this is part of the process of getting you that mind shift to say I'm a spender, and I spend not very efficiently, to I'm a saver, I am debt free.
It took a lot, I think, that to change that, and it was difficult at first. So we didn't spend a ton of time like reading books or anything like that. We really we just focused on like the money itself. So how much was coming in, what was going out to be able to pay off debt. But after probably the first few months, that's when we started really using more blogs and books that we could find out there to help us kind of change that mindset, because we recognized how important it was to change the way we thought about money, and not just how to use it, but our attitude towards it, particularly for the past decisions, letting go of that, accepting what had happened, and then moving forward, how were we going to think about money differently? And that continues to influence, obviously, how we spend money today. So.
Now, when you all first made this decision, way back in the beginning, 21 months back or so, were you all did you all come to this decision together? Did somebody's eyes open before the others? Or was this like both of you all figured it out at the same time and you all kumbaya to the starting line and just took off?
I think that I have been, despite I think some of the choices that I've made, I've always been debt averse. I never liked debt. And right after college, I was about 21 and I had some student loan debt. But other than that, I didn't have any debt and didn't keep debt. And so I knew that I didn't want to be like a homeowner with a mortgage, and I didn't want to have a big car payment or anything like that. And I was really debt averse. But over time, I started really questioning those decisions. And then Garrett and I got together, and he had some other debts.
I was the spender. He was the spender,
but I wasn't much of a saver. So not sure that's a great combo. But because I was debt averse, I think that helped us maybe kind of with the mindset shift and thinking about debt differently and how we could use money differently, because I just really, really, really wanted to be out of debt. So when I had been listening to some talk radio shows about personal finance on the radio, like terrestrial radio, in the car on my commute to work, I started bringing these ideas to Garrett and talking about the money. Like, hey, there's people on the radio who are talking about getting out of debt. Do you think like this sounds like a good idea? And it was so basic. It was something as basic as, what do you think about trying to get out of debt?
I think at that time, too, we were just wrapping up 7 years of construction on what we call our big house. And we still had quite a bit of construction to do. And we also had a camper that we bought on a credit card that was the zero interest for 12 months adventure. And we were getting close to that 12 months. And it was kind of a catalyst that said, whoa, we're sick of doing construction. We still have to put more money into this house. We got credit card debt. And both of us kind of hit that moment there. There was a catalyst there that kind of, forced us to make the jump.
I was especially sick of all the remodeling that it was self-imposed. It wasn't like the house, we bought it under construction. It was self-imposed. And all the money. I mean, I estimated that we spent about $30,000 trying to remodel this house. And then, like Garrett mentioned, with using one of those credit card balance checks that they offer with the promo rate, like using that to finance. We had used those not just for the camper, but in years past, we've been using those to finance the remodeling. So we were avid users of those credit card promo offers. Yeah. And we'd end up in the same situation every year. 6 months or so before it was due, we weren't making any progress on it, and we would buckle down and pay it off, but then we would end up in the same situation again. So finally, I guess we both came to the conclusion about the same time, and just said, okay, enough is enough.
Does your credit score have you down and looking for solutions? You may just find the answers you're looking for with Credit Sesame. Credit Sesame is your solution for a free no-hassle credit score, credit analysis, and tips for managing your money. They are here to help you take control of and have the tools you need to bring about a bright financial future. Get empowered today. There's no credit card required. Receive identity theft protection up to $50,000 and discover a marketplace for credit and loan officers that will help you get to your next level. Visit hisandhermoney.com/Credit Sesame for more details.
So now you both got to that point. You said enough is enough. So let's let everybody know, like, I know they heard, like, you guys have destroyed 6 figures worth of debt in 21 months. They want to know what you did, how you did. So kind of break down some of the practical steps, strategies, tricks of the trade that you all have used to blow away so much debt so fast.
Yeah, I think the first step that we took is we pulled all of our debts together into a pile to see how bad was it. We used Mint software to pull that together, and at that point we realized that, one, we need to reduce our expenses, and then two, increase our income. So with expenses, we developed a budget, and we went through basically every item on every category that we had in Mint. And one area that we realized was the big house. The big house had, at the time, probably about $160,000 in payments left on it, which would have been 25 more years. So we decided, let's downsize. And we put that house on the market, and then ultimately bought a house the third of the size. And one of the things that happened there is we reduced the mortgage, but we also eliminated a lot of the expenses, heating, we general maintenance, time for cleaning, time for mowing the lawn, just all these things we eliminated, which helped us in the next part, which was increase your income.
Yeah, so essentially every expense we took an axe to it, and we cut the mortgage payment. We cut by downsizing, especially we cut our utilities. We moved to a less expensive municipality, so our bills were much lower. Our taxes are lower. Everything about moving was a third to a half of what it was at the other house. So that was a huge income boost for us, being able to save so much. And that helped us put more money towards the debt. So as the months wore on, we were able to pay more and more towards our debt. So right away, though we did make a couple of sacrifices, not just in downsizing the house, which in retrospect probably wasn't too much of it was a sacrifice. We really do like the small house, but right at the start of the journey, I was working a part-time job in a nonprofit organization that I really loved. It's an organization that believed in the mission, and I loved serving there. And I gave it up in favor of taking a full-time job in a business that paid a lot more, so that we could accelerate our debt payoff. So early on, we made a couple of choices, a couple of sacrifices right away, and didn't know if, it was all going to pan out. And but ultimately it did. So between my income boost and cutting those expenses, recurring expenses that are associated with home ownership, and the third problem for us, outside of increasing our income, which was really, really helpful in cutting our housing expenses, was food. We ate through literally thousands of dollars of it every year in restaurant meals. Restaurants for us, it was like an addiction. I mean, we were super lazy. We never cooked. Even though that one of us knows how to cook. I'm not going to say who it is, but one of us knows how to cook. But so I don't know, we just didn't really have a really good excuse for why we're going to restaurants, other than, probably just out of, laziness. We have no reason why we couldn't go out to eat, but I guess I thought, it's convenient, right? It's supposed to kind of save time, and we never end up really saving time or money in that respect. So we managed to cut out restaurants cold turkey right away. We stopped going altogether, and we started cooking and meal planning at home.
Wow. I want to commend you guys. I mean, these are some big sacrifices. You got rid of your big house. You've been spending time and money on trying to get it just right the way you like it. Then you all didn't just sell it, but then you intentionally moved to a different municipality to save money, not just on the size of the house and the payment that would be associated with it, but the bills, utilities, and things of that nature. then Claudia, you leave a job that you're passionate about, that you believed in order to take a job in corporate America that would help you achieve the ultimate goal. I mean, this is huge. Talk about the importance of being willing to do whatever it takes to get you to your ultimate goal. How important is that?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it made all the difference in the world for us. And we set a lofty goal. We wanted to be 100% debt free in a year, and having a lofty goal. So that was in spring of 2015. So we said, okay, we're going to be debt free spring 2016. It forced us to make big changes right away. If we didn't have a lofty goal, we might have kind of eased into some of these changes that we've made. But knowing that we wanted to be, okay, debt free, 200 grand gone, 1 year, boom, what do we need to do? And right away we got to work. So we were able to make some of these changes pretty quickly because of that. It didn't exactly work out like that. We're into year 2, but we will be debt free definitely in the spring. So
amazing. Now, it kind of sounds like things of, once you guys made up your mind and you started making your sacrifices, things just kind of lined up and just roses and peaches and cream and all that. But I'm sure, been doing this a while. So I'm sure that there had to be some obstacles that popped up during these 21 months. Kind of talk to us about those things and talk about how you're able to overcome them and continue to move forward.
I think the first one, the biggest one, was our big house. We had that on the market for a year. We were having difficulty selling it. And one of the reasons was we just so happened to put it up for sale, and the local school was condemned. So not many people wanted to move into the area, which meant we had a vacant house sitting there. And we lived in that house while we were trying to sell it. And then we thought, all of our stuff's here, maybe the people aren't buying it or looking at it because of our stuff's cluttering it. So that's whenever we started eliminating. And then that's whenever we bought this house.
And then, so it took a year to sell. So that was a big hurdle. I'd say the second was actually making a decision to take on a second mortgage. So we could have probably made it work. We could have probably stayed in the other house. But we figured we made a decision. And so definitely the second challenge for us was, how do we downsize and try to get rid of this house as quickly as possible? So having a second mortgage, having to carry that it was about 6 months that we had 2 mortgages. It slowed down our progress towards debt payoff, and it was obvious that we weren't going to hit our goals. So I'd say that was challenging, but fortunately it only lasted about 6 months. So
how come you all didn't give up? You all had to wait an extra year in this house. The second mortgage was a 6-month deal. It took you off track from your goal. I mean, a lot of people would say, throw in the towel. Oh, we didn't make it. Well, at least we tried. Oh, well. But you all didn't give up. How come?
I think we ultimately have the vision of, traveling, being location independent, having that freedom to just go and do. And, we didn't really focus on that because we were just doing the day-to-day grind. And now we look at it as, let's go out and do stuff. Let's kayak, let's bike, let's hike. Let's open up our schedule so that we can do the things that are important to us.
I think there were moments, sure, that I thought that we were not going to see the other side of this. Especially the first like 6 months or so of the journey were really, really difficult for us. So making sure that we surrounded ourselves, even virtually, with like-minded people who also wanted to be debt-free. So we read a lot of blogs. We connected with a lot of people on social media. We keep podcasts like yours. And we listened to story after story after story of debt freedom, people who were making real progress, people like us, not millionaires, not really wealthy people, just average people who had paid off all of their debt. And hearing that story after another, it's the same story for everybody, debt freedom, debt freedom. That was so motivating, especially like hearing their challenges, hearing the struggles. Okay, that this is normal. What we're experiencing is normal. We'll get through this. So I would say, that for sure, 100% surrounding ourselves with like-minded people made us move forward. So even the darkest days where I thought, how are we going to get on the other side of this? Or when are we going to get a day off? It was coming. And it was because of listening to stories, other people tell their stories, that kept us going.
Now, you talk about the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and I couldn't agree more. It's so huge to have people in your corner that are cheering you on. But what about the people that were already in your circle? What was the reaction like from your family and friends as you all were making all these big decisions, these lifestyle changes in an effort to get to your goal of debt freedom? How were they responding to all this?
Well, we to give you some perspective, we don't know anybody who doesn't have debt. We other than the folks that we've met along this journey, so other folks who write about money, personal finance, podcasters, bloggers, other than those folks, we literally don't know anybody who doesn't have debt. And so this was a little bit interesting at first, having this conversation about how we're going to downsize and we have all these lofty goals and we want to be traveling. I think it was a lot for some people to stomach. And so we were definitely weird. Definitely weird. Definitely makes us unique, I would say. So the reactions at first were really in shock. But since we've really opened up and shared more about the progress that we're making, I see the influence that we've had on others who are related to, who had previously lived their lives in debt, selling extra vehicles and extra possessions that kind of sat around and didn't have, much use. My own siblings both have goals to retire early. And so they're making progress towards their financial goals, paying off the student loan debts that they acquired through, pursuing higher education. So I think that at first it was a little bit odd. People are definitely shocked because debt is so normal. What do you mean you're going to pay off your house in a year? Like, nobody does that. That's weird. It was important though for us to counter any of that kind of feedback with the positive messages that we were hearing from others who were sharing like their stories of debt freedom or why it's important to be debt free. So
I think a lot of our circle struggled with the fact that we went from a 1,500 square foot house and a 2-car garage to a 500 square foot house. For them, it was, we heard usually two things. One, I could never do that, and my wife and I would kill each other. And for us, the big house, we actually started looking around when we had the big house and realized we had 2 bathrooms, we only used 1. We had 2 bedrooms, we only used 1. Half of the house we didn't use. The living room was a lot larger than we needed. It was just, space. So we didn't really sacrifice. We just got rid of what we aren't using.
And I think that resonated more with other folks over time, particularly as we've been sharing our story and downsizing our stuff. I think it's the stuff portion that probably made it accessible to our family and friends. They really could understand the desire to get rid of stuff. Maybe not so much the debt portion, but they could understand wanting to downsize and declutter. So that's the part of the journey that I think that most people could get behind for us.
Awesome. Now, what type of impact has this 21-month journey to debt freedom had on your marriage?
It's a great question. I think that there's a lot less stress in our lives. So we used to spend nights and weekends cleaning the house, running errands, mowing the lawn, leaf blowing, remodeling. And so we had our like individual tasks, or maybe like our chore lists. Each of us had our little honey-do lists. So, you know, between the things that we were doing to remodel the house, the usual like day-to-day list of things, laundry, you know, well, we know we weren't cooking. So laundry, cleaning the house, mowing the lawn, all those things that comprised our day-to-day life really, I think, made us kind of distant in a way. So we weren't spending tons of time together before. It seemed like we were just rushing through this list of things that we thought we had to do in a day or in a week. So I think we've definitely grown closer because we have more time together.
Absolutely. And we've been able to go and enjoy things together more, you know, things that we enjoy, which is definitely great. You know, you're eliminating stress, and two, you're doing things that we both enjoy more and do together.
Awesome. Now, looking back, reflecting on the whole process that you all have been in so far, what do you think has been the biggest life lesson that you all have taken away from it all?
Get out of debt and stay out of debt. But I think more importantly than the money, I actually was having a goal, because after college, once I graduated, I know I didn't really have any goals. I just thought I would have a job and, you know, that would be it, and I would retire one day. And I didn't really think about anything I really wanted to do with my life in particular. I had some kind of vague goals set for myself, but I think the big lesson that I took away from this is really being purposeful, have a direction, and set some goals, you know, to make progress in that direction.
Awesome. Now, you all did a lot of talking about the fact it is super important to keep yourself abreast on people that are doing what you're doing and trying to get out of debt. And you said there were blogs and books that kept you motivated. Can you mention some of those? Maybe our audience can check those out as well.
Some of the first like money related books that we had read, they came much later in our journey. So right away, we actually connected with lots of bloggers and podcasters who were talking about money. So your show is one of those. The Debt-Free Guys, who talk about their journey out of credit card debt. Those are another couple of great resources for those who are looking to try to crush credit card debt. I think between the stories that both your site and theirs shared, that provide a lot of great reading material for us, at least for the first few months. But then what I discovered on your site and theirs was that there were books about the subject. So who knew? I had no idea that people wrote about money or budgeting or anything like that. So within a few months, we took some of the recommendations that we had gotten from others, and we picked up things from the library like Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. That was a great book to help challenge some of the assumptions I know that I had about money. So I really enjoyed reading that book, and about, you know, staying committed to success and having, you know, a desire to achieve. That was particularly helpful. The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach is another great book that we finished recently. That taught me even more about personal finance, even though I've been reading so much about it the last couple of years. This concept of pay yourself first, that was new. I had read about it and didn't really fully grasp what the concept was. So once, you get paid, paying yourself means, putting something towards retirement. I thought, I've been doing that. Great. Okay, so I'm doing something right. So the one thing I can put in my column, I guess, that I've been saving for retirement. There's Dave Ramsey. We just discovered Dave Ramsey in the last few months. We're terrible. I know, but Dave Ramsey. So we're really working backwards right now through the books. But Dave Ramsey's whole series of books and all of his personalities and podcasts and things, so those have been super helpful too. So his baby steps, we've been using those as kind of a rough measure for us as we're very close to being debt free. And so what comes next, essentially, those are some questions that we have in our mind. So we're kind of using the baby steps there to gauge our progress.
I think one book that was missed, A Slight Edge.
The Slight Edge, yeah, by Jeff Olson. So habits, the importance of forming good habits and sticking to it, making progress every single day. That book was super helpful because getting out of debt, making progress really does require daily commitment. I mean, especially for us, and we were really addicted to restaurants. We had to make the choice every single day to not go to a restaurant every day. And so the Slight Edge really spoke to us and the journey that we were on, because literally every day we had to focus on making good decisions for our finances. So the Slight Edge, super helpful.
Awesome. Now, perhaps there's somebody tuned in who heard your story, loved it, and they're like, man, that's awesome that Garrett and Claudia really has been doing their thing, and they're almost debt free. But then they look at their situation, they look at their amount of debt, they look at their income, they look at their circumstances, and they're not sure if they can do the type of work that you all have been able to do with your debt. What words of encouragement would you offer to that person?
There's something that you can do. There's some step you can take today. No matter how big, no matter how small. You do not have to move out of your house necessarily like we do and downsize to a shoebox. We love it, but you can make some small step today. So even if your small step is to just avoid going to a restaurant tonight. Tonight you're going to stay home and make dinner when you might not have otherwise. To make a decision today to counter whatever decisions you have made that led you to this point. You can pick one good decision today, and then tomorrow you just make the same choice again. And just focusing on those small steps every single day, a small step replicated every single day, will make you successful. It's made us successful.
Awesome. So tell everybody all about your awesome website and how they can connect with you.
Our site is 2cuphouse.com. It's a blog that we write about downsizing and the journey that we're on to what we hope will be full-time travel beginning in 2019. So we're writing about, we're a few months away from debt freedom at this time. So we're really excited about that. Come April 2017, we're really excited we're really hoping, cross our fingers, we can say that we're 100% debt free. And we write about some of the other things that we're doing. We just don't only write about money. We talk about, what downsized living really means to us today and all the cool things that we get to do. But we're hoping to make this a travel blog in the next couple of years, so you can kind of follow our journey as we travel the U.S. in our tiny house with our 2 cups, 2 plates, 2 bowls, and you kind of get the idea. So
I love it. I love it. Everybody be sure to go check out 2 Cup House. We really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule to come and share your journey with everybody tuned in. We know they're inspired. We know they're fired up. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you
so much.